Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line, talking about a bill that would, it's known as a bill that would criminalize homelessness. And we have with us up here a couple of people from Open Table Nashville and Kayla Philips, who is experiencing homelessness herself. We have several calls, so let's just go right to the phones. Hello, Virginia.
Hi, Dan.
Hi. Go right ahead.
All right, I have a comment about homeless because 20 years ago, I was middle class. My husband had a great job. And, you know, it never occurred to us that anything terrible could happen, but it did. His health declined. He developed blood clots, and eventually one just broke off and hit his heart. We lost everything we had. And so when he died, I was basically just destitute. And so I finally found an apartment complex here in Murfreesboro. I live in Murfreesboro. And I'm in my 60s now, and of course the rent is going to go up. And it's already, you know, $800 for a one-bedroom apartment, you know, small. And, you know, between now and December, I've got to decide what's going to happen because the landlord has decided not to take vouchers anymore. And so, you know, if the rent goes up $200 or $300 and I'm on Social Security, you know, I'm going to be homeless. And the only thing I can think to do is, well, you know, I'm going to have to stick everything I own in a storage unit, and I'm going to have to move into a motel, maybe. And, you know, people who are homeless, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It's just the circumstances of life that has, you know, got them down. And I can understand fully because, you know, I'm in that precarious situation now. So, you know, and it just irritates me that we have so many millionaires and billionaires in Tennessee, but do they give their time or that extra money or anything to help people? And you know, every time I hear about the new stadium and $2.1 billion, and there's people that are homeless and hungry, and it's just irritating.
Right. Well, Virginia, thank you for sharing that. Virginia, thank you. Virginia sounds like somebody who is right on that brink, and she's frustrated. I feel like sometimes people don't see Virginia. Like maybe they don't even realize how bad the problem is. They certainly see Kayla, you're out there, and that's difficult. But then there are all these people like Virginia that are this close and are very worried they may be out there. And do you think that's part of it? People just don't understand how many people are in this situation. India, what do you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, even her story reminds me so much of Yvonne's that just called in also. And there's just so many people who, in theory, we have these safety net programs that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to help people when, you know, some unforeseen circumstance happens, when, you know, someone dies, when you lose a job. But, you know, our disability benefits, our widow's benefits, our food stamps, our Section 8 vouchers, they're systems that are not, you know, pulling people out of these emergency situations when they're happening. They're trapping people in poverty and in cycles of housing instability or homelessness. So yeah, the problem is, I definitely think, a lot more grave than so many people realize.
And Kayla, so you're out there, you've shared your story. How many, do you see people like Virginia that have just recently had a situation that's kicked them out of their apartment, and they come and are, you know, living with you? Do you see that? How much is just permanent, you know, people that are living around you and have been for long periods of time, and how much do you see that is happening like just right out of the blue?
It's not as often, but I know people who are literally living paycheck to paycheck, and it takes that one paycheck that doesn't come on the right day and they lose their house, you know. But I see it out there.
And how many people live around you where you are?
Closer to 80? Yeah, I think in the pit count, they said about 80 people at Old Tent City in January.
Just that area, yeah.
Wow, so that's a lot of people. And describe it out there as best you can. I think when people hear that, they're like, wow, 80 people. What is it like? Are they...
We typically stay to ourselves, me and my fiance and our dogs. You know, we have it divided to where this side's stays to ourselves, that side, they do what they want. You know, it's to basically defend on yourself. But, you know, like I said, we stay to ourselves, so we don't see majority of what's going on.
Does law enforcement come out there?
Yes, they come every day when Salvation Army comes to feed.
And how is that?
It's good. They come feed. We all get food. They help serve. So we at least have one meal a day.
And do you feel safe?
Yes. I've got my old man. He keeps me safe no matter what.
And dogs.
Oh yeah, my dogs.
Wow. Okay. Let's go back to the phones here. Let's go to Jean. Hello, Jean.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Go right ahead.
Okay. I got online to find out what major cities in the South have done something to help with their homeless problem. And fortunately, Houston has. In fact, over the last 10 years, Houston reduced its homeless population by 55%. And they did it with what they call their Housing First policy. And I was wondering if Nashville had anything in the works that would model what Houston has done. And the thing that I found incongruous and really bothers me is that the governor, the legislature, not the governor, the legislature under Governor Lee, has okayed a $500 million bond to go toward the building of a new football stadium. And bonds can be used for affordable housing. It's called a general bond obligation. So I'm just wondering what can be done to perhaps model what Houston has done.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jean. Do you know about what happened in Houston, and what about her question there?
Absolutely. So the cities that have been successful in cutting homelessness have been the cities that do housing first, and they really invest in their housing infrastructure. Housing first is a evidence-based practice where instead of making people jump through all of these hoops to get into a certain kind of housing, it really puts housing at the front end and says, you know, you need to have options, you need to get in, because housing is the foundation of stability. Once you get into a stable place, you can start working on employment, you can start working on disability benefits. If you're having mental health struggles or physical health struggles, we can start addressing that. If you're having substance use struggles, we'll start addressing that. But it's gonna be, you're gonna be housed first. What's interesting is not only is it incredibly effective at addressing chronic homelessness, because it's giving people options and it's working with them and really valuing their choices and agency, it's also cost effective. So we're spending, you know, just to incarcerate someone for a year, it's over $30,000. But to provide housing first, that housing with support services, a lot of estimates have said it's closer to $12,000 or $13,000. So instead of having people spinning through our jails and spinning through our emergency departments and in crisis and hurting and suffering, we're actually doing something that's cost effective, and that's helping to end that.
So you're saying, what did they do? They bought a lot of housing and they put people in it?
So we've seen a trend across the country, especially with some of the American Rescue Plan funding, of buying up hotels and using that to convert. It's very quick to convert hotels and motels into affordable housing. So I know Nashville's looking at that. We had a declaration from, and you could talk more about this today at the Mayor's State or the Metro, Mayor's State of Metro address, right? Where he talked about housing first, and we're trying to get more people from the city involved. But I mean, the caller's right. We're investing, you know, huge pieces of money into entertainment facilities, and we're giving crumbs to housing, which again is the foundation of a healthy community. So clearly our priorities are off.
The mayor did do the State of Metro today, and I think he said something like $50 million. Is that right? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I did a read of the address after it happened today. So yeah, there were a lot of really promising things. So you definitely had it right. He committed to $20 million in addition of local funding for affordable housing, in addition to $30 million that would come from ARP, so the American Rescue Plan monies. And he also had a $50 million commitment to addressing homelessness. So that looked like purchasing some properties that would be used for affordable housing specifically for people experiencing homelessness and wraparound services. The thing that I thought was very promising is something that we've been advocating and lots of other groups have is, we don't want just these steep investments when we have federal monies that are kind of a one-time thing like the ARP funds. We want a local stream of funding that's going to be there every single year. And so that was one of the commitments that in his version of the budget that he said that there's going to be a local revenue stream that would go into the Barnes Affordable Housing Trust Fund every year in the sum of $14.3 million.
All right, let's go to Michael. Hello, Michael.
Yes, how are you?
Fine, go right ahead.
Well, I'd like to make a comment. I don't know really for sure if this bill has been passed or not yet, but I am asking Governor Lee, I am begging him, please do not do this. Do not sign this bill because you are going to impact a lot of people, as these ladies on the panel have said. They're not bad people. Some of them's alcoholics, some of them's drug addicts, some of them's mental illness, and they live every day on the street. I was homeless 3 years ago and lived in an RV on the side of the road. I've never been homeless in my life. And this has really, really impacted me, hearing this and knowing what's going to happen. We used to have a governor here a long time ago, and he had a program that was through NDHA, and it would train people to go out and rehab houses and stuff for the elderly people. And when Mayor Fulton or the Fulton had this, it was his pet project. I worked in that project. I want to know why we can't have a project like that again and give these homeless people, the ones you can save. You can't save everybody, but the ones you can save, why not let them have sweat equity and maybe help them with some of these old hospitals and these warehouses and these places that we have around the Nashville area that are empty and been empty for years? Why could we not put sweat equity and the government help build apartments, one-bedroom apartments or two-bedroom apartments for some of these homeless people that you could save?
All right, well, thank you. And that call started out with not sure if this bill is passed. It has passed in the House and Senate, but now it's waiting on the governor's a signature, right? And there's a huge effort to try and sway the governor to veto it. Where do you think that stands? I mean, do you think that's getting through to the governor? Do you have hope? I guess you have hope, but what do you think?
It is very unlikely that he will veto. We are throwing everything at it that we can. At every step of this bill, whether it was in the committee or on the floor, we have thrown everything at it that we can. And what we're focused on right now is knowing that we've done everything we can and understanding that the only thing that's going to defeat these kind of bills in the future is being organized together, not only here in Nashville, but also across the state. So we poured a lot of effort into getting to know folks in Knoxville and rural areas and Chattanooga. And again, we're not going to defeat this bill if it's just Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis. We've really got to get to know these other providers and really get to build kind of power with them so that we can raise our voices louder together. That's what we're focused on. And we're also going to challenge this in court. The second it's used, we will challenge its constitutionality. And we can talk more about that if you're interested.
It's up to local law enforcement to enforce it. So if it passes, then Metro Police and our district attorney, right, would be the ones that would say, okay, they would, I guess, say to Kayla, you're in violation here. And so how likely is it that it will be enforced?
It's likely that it will be enforced across the state. We don't know if it'll be prosecuted. So it's likely that law enforcement will try to enforce it and charge people for this. We don't know if DA's offices will actually prosecute. And that's one of the most important things.
Let me go to the phones here. Then I want to ask about the constitutionality. Let's go to Anthony. Hello, Anthony.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, go right ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. First of all, we got to vote. And when we vote the right people in, the people that are there with you, they would have the backbone of the support of the council, people, the state, and representatives. And we got to ask people before we vote for them, where do you stand on this? That's important, because without their support, That's why we're getting looked over. Number two, I don't think Mr. Lee doing anything about these problems we're talking about. He just don't even know these people exist. That is very sad. We have to take care of the poor. It was required to. Biblically, if we read the scriptures, we don't got all about spiritually what he said. Take care of the elder and the poor. They're my favorite people. If they want to help themselves, can't save everybody like they said. I'm going to ask the question. Now, can we tax or is there any taxes that goes from business towards the homeless? I want you to answer that once I get off the phone.
All right.
Are business obligated? Say, well, what if this 5% for? Oh, we have a 5% tax towards the poor to help the homeless here when you build here when you come here.
All right, well, let's talk about that. That's a dedicated funding source. Is that what you were talking about, that the mayor is talking about doing? What about that question there?
Yeah, there's a Metro property that right now they don't have to pay property tax. There's a lump sum payment, and that has been going into the general fund. But the mayor's proposal today, when he did the State of Metro address, said that instead of that funding, that $14.3 million going into the general fund every year, he's proposing that that would be directed into the Barnes Fund. So again, that would be $14.3 million every year that would be committed to building affordable housing across Nashville.
So that'll be a dedicated funding source. That still has to pass the council and all that, but that's a proposal. Let's go to Stephanie. Hello, Stephanie.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I have several questions wrapped up into one, and it's kind of like I'm on my little soapbox, so to speak. Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah.
One thing is the homeless people. It kind of hits home to me. Before this COVID pandemic even happened, we had a percentage of homeless people that I felt that the government or whoever called themselves running Nashville should have took care of this situation, because we have either veterans who have paved the way, who have fought for our freedom and different other things, who are dealing mentally, whatever the case may be. We had a lot of empty buildings that should have been renovated and made out of apartments for these people who are living on the streets with little kids. That breaks my heart to see that. And yet we fund everything else. We don't even hardly want to fund education. But we find money for sports and all of this kind of stuff. But we pass our brother that's on the streets and look at him as though, okay, whatever, that's your choice. Maybe it is their choice, but sometimes we all fall short some kind of way. And I just want to say to the mayor, I mean, you're having all these people coming in and getting loans to build these skinny houses, and you're forgetting about the Nashvillians who have paid the way. Then you go up on the property taxes, where we end up paying for these people who are here that need to pay their way. And again, you do have people who lost their jobs due to the fact of that. And they can't afford the rent that y'all have boosted up so high that it's not affordable houses anywhere anymore. And I feel like it's hardship. You 1 minute you love your neighbor, the next minute you throwing your neighbor out. And that's my comment, and that's my soapbox.
Stephanie,
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Stephanie, thank you. All right, we have to go to break. All right, we're going to go to break, and we'll come back right after this.